Good afternoon. Welcome to the Field Engineer channel. Today we are speaking to Tim Robertson, the founder of the Field Engineer, and I'm joined as ever by Guy Eid. Welcome to you both. Tim, let's get straight into it. A lot of our members want to know, why did you start the Field Engineer?
That's a very good question, Charlie. I started the Field Engineer because I wanted to leave a legacy and put something back into the world that's given me a good life, I think. And so I had the idea of a global community that was open to anyone in the world, no preference for nationality, no preference for religion, no preference for politics or anything, just something that was for everyone equally, and with an experience and background in engineering. Engineering is one of my passions, and I thought field engineers were one of the groups of people that were kind of the unsung heroes, to use a phrase, of engineering, that they just aren't represented and don't have a place to be seen. So that was really the main thinking behind it.
Okay, and what were the aims of the community when you started out?
Well, the aims were really to create an opportunity for people wherever they are in the world to have a good career in the world of engineering in the field. So just to really, offer people an opportunity where they can come in at the beginning of their career in one end of the community, and through the time in the community progress through our networking groups and our private networks as well, to be managers and even directors, global directors of field service or field applications engineering, or whichever field of field engineering they're involved in.
Okay, excellent. You've kind of answered a bit of my question. Obviously, some of the audience, is the field engineers. You've also mentioned application engineers. Who else is your target audience for this community?
So essentially, we're open to anyone who works in the field in an engineering type role. We're open to people who support those engineers in the field. So that could be the people who schedule their jobs, the customer support people, all of the, if you like, the wider world of field service, field engineering, and the supporting personnel. We also encourage HR members to offer their jobs on our job board, which is, although now it's on a separate website, it's integral to the whole concept of the field engineer community, that we are able to support these engineers and these support people in their careers, and by having our own job board and offering the job postings at a very good price, we're able to hopefully over time build up the go-to job board for field engineering jobs as well, to support our community members.
Okay. And what are the other benefits to our members? You mentioned the job board, which is a really good resource for those looking for opportunities. And I know obviously Guy and I get involved in mentorship. There are plenty of other benefits. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about some of the other benefits of the field engineer offers.
Okay, well, if we're talking about the field the field engineer as an organization has a community, it has a job board, and it will soon have a store where members can sell their services, their products. So, for example, I mean, we're not thinking that people like medical device companies will sell their products through our store, but there may be smaller suppliers who have particular services that are suitable for field engineers and field engineering companies who could sell services through the store. Specifically within the community, which is essentially the heart of the whole organization, we have different types of networking groups, so people can network specifically relating to their sector. So we have groups for medical engineers, biomeds. We have groups for field applications engineers. We have field groups for oil and gas, people working in oil and gas. And then we also have groups for specific job roles. So one of my ideas originally when I created the community was thinking there are people working with particular technologies across different sectors. And what I'd found out in my career in 20 plus years recruiting in engineering was that there were knowledge silos, if you like. So there are people who have knowledge about vacuum systems, for example, who might be working in the semiconductor industry, working on chemical vapor deposition systems, something like that. There are also people working on vacuums for completely different sectors. And my thinking was that if we can get engineers who are in different zones, shall we say, they could interact and learn from each other in ways that perhaps the typical networking and silo-based societies and organizations can't offer. So that was one of my ideas in terms of setting this up. And we do get some of that already within the groups and within the community. In terms of other things we have in the community, we have country groups. So if someone is working in a particular country, they can join that country networking group and network with people who are either from that country or who are working with that country. Our goal in the longer term is to set up in-person meetups based on those groups, both within specific countries, within specific cities, and members are welcome to create their own groups within the community about their passion or about their particular technologies that they know about, and then maybe create a new networking group to follow their passions and their goals.
If I may interject, Charlie, thank you, Tim, for that nice overview. I'm curious, you created this community 3 years ago, and now 3 years later, is it where you envisioned it to be? Did you expect it to be at this level, or is it deviating? How do you see it going now?
I see it. I think it's the awareness and where we are on a global scale. I'm surprised at how widely known the field engineer has become. Mm-hmm. We do a lot on LinkedIn, as you know, and we are as a startup. We're self-funded, so we're not a venture capital funded business. We're doing it really as a life enhancing entity. Obviously, we're keen to make some revenue, but we are doing it for a higher reason. But we in the space of a few years with basically very little marketing, we've created an awareness on LinkedIn of, we have over 10,000, or we have 10,000 followers on our LinkedIn mm-hmm. company page. We have over 2,000 members of the community. We have passionate members. We have volunteers like yourselves who help support the community. We have many other volunteers doing other things for the community, and I think we have changed people's lives. We have I can think of a number of people who I know have got a new job in a new country that they wouldn't have got were it not for the field engineer community. So I think that in itself justifies creating the field engineer community, even just changing one person's life, I would say.
Agreed. And especially in the last few months, as you said, the community is growing. We initiated talks on YouTube and podcasts, and we created newly the Coach on Call program for the community. So I think little steps here and there, but the community is growing in the right direction. And we're hoping that, as you said, it's making the impact that you meant it to do.
Absolutely. One of the things, I mean, there are things that we've already achieved that I'm very happy with. There are things that I wanted to achieve by now that we haven't. One of those is creating a kind of field engineers roadmap, a course that engineers that we can verify that this person has the necessary skills to be a field engineer. So we have got that in place in terms of a plan. We have members like yourselves who are very senior and experienced field service managers and leaders. We have, as you know, the field service managers networking group that we have regular meetings in which has nearly 100 members already. Those are very senior people who have knowledge and experience that one of the reasons they've joined the community is to give that knowledge back to the next generation. So turning that experience into a course or a learning portal, that was one of the founding ideas that I wanted to see happen. It hasn't happened yet, but that is in our immediate plans. As you know, we've got a number of people, some of the people you've interviewed, for example, in our YouTube podcasts, are the sort of people who have said, yeah, we're happy, we think that's brilliant, we really want to support that. So it's a work in progress, but it will happen.
Right, and it's not a one-man show necessarily or effort, because you have done a great effort, you and Caroline, to bring the community up to this level. And it is really the talent that the community holds that contributes. And we all look forward to more contributions from all the managers and all the field engineers. So we're happy to see how it is growing, and hopefully it's benefiting a lot of field engineers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.
One of the things I would say, sorry, Tim, one of the things I just wanted to jump in and say, one of the real strengths of this community is you've got groups from all over the world. So geographically, you've got this great group of people. You've got diversity in terms of the sectors that are represented. You've got a great spread of knowledge and experience from the freshly out of college engineers through to the more senior and seasoned managers, directors, leaders. And I think that is a huge strength, and that really makes the community, and that offers something special to the members in terms of access to that breadth of knowledge and that depth of knowledge as well. So I think that's a really good thing. One other thing I wanted to come on to is how our members can get involved. What initiatives are there? How can we invite more people to help drive the future of the field engineer?
Absolutely, good point, Charlie. There are plenty of ways people can support the community. For example, we run various websites so people can support from a technical point of view in terms of helping, putting together blog posts or doing some actual programming in the back end, so to speak. One of the things which I was about to say was also of the original plan. Part of the plan is to have an app. So at the moment we run on a website, and you can access the community through your mobile phone, but it's not ideal. It's not an app, and that is something that we are very keen to have, because I think that will really broaden out and widen the potential for members to join. At the same time, we are a private network, and this is something that we haven't mentioned yet. So what goes on in the community is private to the community. I mean, we share blogs, so people are encouraged to come and see what's going on. But unlike LinkedIn, shall we say, where everything's in the public domain, if someone wants to ask a question and not, in a private group like the managers group, or maybe the group about I don't know, oil and gas. They've got a particular question, they can ask it in the community of other members, and it's just within the community. It's not publicly accessible. So if someone's job hunting, they can join the community and let members in the community know they're job hunting. But again, it's all within the community. So I think that's an upside. That people are able to join without necessarily flagging who they are or who they work for. And this was one of the things I found out when I was originally had the idea for the community, and I went around a number of trade shows talking to people on the stands saying, what would you think about this? A lot of people said to me, well, if you've got a service engineer who works for Abbott, they're not going to want to share their trade knowledge with someone who works for whoever, I don't know, Siemens or BD, or it doesn't matter. So being a private network where you don't have to say, I'm a field service engineer who works for whoever, makes it more possible for people to be frank and share knowledge and not be concerned that it will get back to whoever if they've got any concerns on that front.
Excellent. And if we look to the future plans for maybe this year, maybe for the distant future, what does the future hold?
Okay, so the future plans come in a few different varieties. So in terms of the community itself, how it's run, as I mentioned, the next big step will be to have an app. So that will really impact how people are able to use the community. So that's one. The next is meetups, in-person events. We already do online meetings, which are working fine, working great. And we have a weekly Meet the Field Engineer where I always come on a Friday, and anyone can come and ask me anything they like about the community, make suggestions. Just even say what they like. I'll listen to them. So that's where any member has instant access to me every Friday to say what they want and how they think it could be improved. So meetups, events, possibly conferences and things like that. But there's so many people who do conferences. That's not really, because we're global, I want to try and be as inclusive as possible. So, it's so easy in this world to just concentrate and think, okay, well, we're just going to focus on Western Europe and the US. And yeah, we would probably be a much bigger community if we'd only done that. But that isn't what's the reason for doing the community. So, as I say, we're equally happy to do blogs about a junior field service engineer in Ghana as we are, the guy who runs the field service team for a massive company across the whole of the US. So, yeah, I think I went off slightly off what your question was there, so apologies for that. But that's part of what we're doing for the future is trying to target content and the community at people doing these roles everywhere. So that's quite difficult because it's not very good for SEO on Google. But that's what we're after. That's the dream.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Tim. I'm sure there will be some comments and questions for our members. If you do have any comments or questions, please do put them down below. And I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Tim, for your time, and thank you on behalf of the community for setting this up in the first place. I know it's added a huge amount of value for a lot of individuals, so thank you very much for that. So yeah, Tim, Guy, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Tim.
Bye.